Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and today we got to talk about the resistance to the upcoming Terminators. But right now we're just talking about robots, and I found this actually really amusing, but also very thought-provoking as well, as I think it's something that we have to basically society-wide and worldwide really grapple with and talk about. Now, this is coming basically from Rebecca Bellan, of TechCrunch, and here's what's going on. Basically, a group of Safe Street activists in the city of San Francisco realize that they can actually disable Cruise and Waymo robo-taxis by placing a traffic cone on the vehicle's hood, and obviously they're telling everybody to do this. They're very encouraging on this point. Now, the week of the cone, as the group is calling this basically viral prank on Twitter and TikTok, is a form of protest against the spread of these taxi services, robo-taxi services in San Francisco, and they appear to be gaining traction with residents who, quite frankly, are sick of these things malfunctioning and blocking traffic. And FYI, more than half a dozen of these Cruise robo-taxis stopped operating and sat in the street basically a couple weeks ago, Tuesday, in San Francisco, blocking traffic for a couple of hours, until the company employees arrived and manually moved their autonomous vehicles. Remember, these are robo-taxis. There are no humans in these vehicles operating them, and so they had to go fetch them as they were blocking traffic, obviously creating gridlock in San Francisco. Now, that mishap also came less than a week after Cruise launched its fully driverless commercial robo-taxi service within San Francisco city limits. Cruise vehicles are initially operating between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. on designated streets and without human safety operators behind the wheel. So this new protest basically comes into the lead up of a hearing that will most likely see both Waymo and Cruise expand their taxi services autonomously within San Francisco. The California Public Utilities Commission is set to approve the expansion of both Cruise's and Waymo's autonomous vehicle passenger service deployments on July 13th of this year. Now, the agency, this particular agency, does not give companies a permission to operate their autonomous vehicles on public roads. That's up to the California Department of Motor Vehicles, but it does grant companies the authority to charge passengers a fare for that service, which is essential, obviously, to basically scaling a robo-taxi service and autonomous delivery operations as well. Other opponents, like San Francisco Taxi Workers Alliance and the Alliance for Independent Workers, have protested the spread of robo-taxis, which they will say eliminate the need for taxis and ride-hail drivers, meaning putting humans out of a job. And that's where I got interested in this, although I do find the rest of this amusing and actually thought-provoking as well. Now, on top of this, Safe Street Rebels, this is the group, their cone campaign is a bid to raise awareness and invite more pissed-off San Franciscans to submit public comments to that commission before next week's hearing. Cruise and Waymo vehicles have indeed stopped in the middle of the roads, as I mentioned, blocking traffic and all of that. Recently, a Waymo autonomous vehicle hit and killed a dog, but it seems like that accident was unavoidable, meaning they're not really blaming the autonomous vehicle. On top of it, if you recall, in 2018, an Uber self-driving vehicle was involved in an accident that killed a pedestrian in Arizona, but so far, no deaths have occurred in San Francisco. Not that that makes anybody feel any better, because there you go. But that said, we've also come a long way in the 5 years that was 2018. Now, the police basically have tapped Cruise and Waymo for footage to also help a handful of crimes. One of the things going around was, well, they're recording absolutely everything without consent. But despite those rumors, there's no evidence at this point, and I say that specifically at this point, that these two companies are working in tandem with law enforcement to record everything all the time, like a massive surveillance apparatus, similar to like something like Ring Doorbell, where they just give over footage, and that's probably where this is going to go. So at this time there isn't, but I suspect we're probably going to see more charges of this coming up soon. So aside from the privacy thing, this is the other issue that we really need to talk about when we are talking about robotics and automation, and that is the displacement of workers. We're not stopping having kids worldwide. The population continues to grow, and which means if we have economies, we need jobs. And so if we are doing everything from, let's say, automating that McDonald's drive-through with an artificial intelligence, instead of, let's say, giving that job to a 16-year-old, which again is not about a paycheck. I've talked about this before. It's about the socialization skills, the customer service skills, training that person for a better job in the workforce. What are we doing? Same with taxi drivers as well. That's obviously a huge thing. Taxi drivers have always been at odds with the Ubers of the world, that are kind of technically contractors and all of that, and et cetera, et cetera. But when you are looking at an entire workforce that is especially going to be displaced, you can fall back on basically the concepts like creative destruction. But when we are basically removing from multiple sectors at once a whole bunch of different jobs, it's very difficult to create that, because creative destruction usually relies on something new being built that is going to essentially supply the ever-growing population with jobs that will contribute to the economy. And so do we start talking about welfare and universal basic income? Is there something that we're not seeing that's going to create new jobs for a legion of people that are going to be displaced? And remember, I mentioned this a while back, that there was a study, I believe it was by Bloomberg or it was by JP Morgan Chase. It was one of the big ones that basically said that we're going to have 300 million jobs affected, 30 million people going to lose their job right out of the gate in the next couple of years due to automation and robotics. So I think this is something that we really need to discuss, but there you go. And I also think, per interviews I've done with people in the car and automotive industry or enthusiasts like Doug DeMuro, you may know him from his YouTube channel, and you can see him on my YouTube channel, the interview I did with him, that we're not 100% there when it comes to these kinds of things. Now, obviously, the roads in San Francisco are going to be a lot different in terms of weather-wise than, let's say, they're going to be here in Chicago in February when there's snow everywhere, and there's no way I'd want an artificial intelligence at this moment driving me around when I have a lot of experience in that. But if it's nice, paved roads and clean roads, and there's no snow or anything slick on the road, autonomous vehicle might be fine, providing they're not breaking down in the middle of the street and causing gridlocks while you're basically trapped in the back seat waiting for their employees to come and get you. So there's a lot going on here. I'm of multiple minds on robotics and automation. We're going to see where this goes ultimately, but there are real societal concerns that we have to agree on. And while this is a humorous way to basically shut these things down, just stick an orange cone on it and boom, it stops. We have to think greater. We have to think bigger picture. So until then, I guess keep fighting the power, because the resistance to the robots has officially begun. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, and Threads. Apparently I'm on Threads now because that's a thing. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please attempt to stay private. Thanks, everybody.